Hello and welcome back to Black Mental Health Matters. Now, our mission here is to encourage open dialogue around mental health among Black communities. I'm your host, Amanda Eke, and today we have a very, very special guest with us discussing all about mental health with individuals with disabilities. Awesome, awesome stuff. All right, so bringing our guests to the stage now, Miss Jocelyn, please do introduce yourself to the people. Tell us a bit about who you are and what you do, please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jocelyn Sanders, and I am a self proclaimed mental health advocate. My journey started with mental health in the early 2000s, and through rigorous treatment, coping skills, strategies, I was able to write a book about mental health in the community, self love, and topics on how to overcome mental illness and how to live with it, how to manage it and maintain it, resources you can use. Um, I am a advocate for disability studies.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining. Have a very Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jocelyn. Looks like we have a bit of a lag, but that's okay. Um, we have a very, very important topic today: mental health for individuals with disabilities. Now, I kind of want to bring some background into this, Miss Jocelyn. For many people living with disabilities, physical care is seen as the first priority, right? But when a disability impacts a person's quality of life, it has a direct effect on all aspects of their well-being and daily experiences. A lot of people with disabilities, we can't see them, right? A lot of people with disabilities, it's such a spectrum, such a range, and such invisibility of it all, right? In your kind of professional experience, how can that isolation of some of that trauma, people with physical disabilities experiencing PTSD, trauma, how can that isolation that some people feel with those physical disabilities and that range of physical disabilities, how can that be addressed?
Okay, so in particular, for certain people who deal with disabilities, who live with disabilities, are people who are living alone, who are abused, who lack a healthy support system and are members of a marginalized group. These are prime candidates to suffer from anxiety and depression. Persistent isolation can, besides mental health, be a predicator for cardiovascular problems and increased mortality rates. Some ways we can address these issues are by changing the pattern of isolation by acknowledging it first and reaching out for therapy or counseling or perhaps socialization with others. Some therapies to alleviate it could be cognitive behavioral therapy. This is where you challenge unhelpful thoughts and learn practical self strategies. Another tool is behavioral therapy. This form allows individuals to look and identify and help change potentially self destructive or unhealthy behaviors. Um, this helps individuals to identify self defeating thoughts and feelings to challenge the nature of irrational and unproductive feelings. We also know
Absolutely,
that,
absolutely. Tell me a little bit. Go ahead, go ahead. I'm so sorry.
no, I can't hear you. I think it's just these headphones could be the issue.
Can you hear me now?
Hmm.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. No worries. Now tell me a bit, how do you approach someone with disabilities and their mental health? I think a lot of people have a fear or kind of hesitation approaching people with disabilities. How do you actually first actually approach those folks, and how do you begin that conversation around mental health with them?
Definitely, you want to be approachable. Um, Come to them as with person centered care. Look at them as a human being first
Mm,
and foremost. You know, even if they're having self destructive behaviors or you're doing an intervention on them, handle them with care, concern, acknowledge the fact that they are still normal, like things that happened in their life before they get diagnosed with a mental health illness. And sometimes you can help them come with different measures to practice healing, self healing, or well being. Um, Look at the person, not the disability, and take into consideration how the ability disability happened. Um, don't judge, and because you never know what led to the diagnosis. So I think me, what my personal experience was, I wanted people to acknowledge that I was a human being. I had a life. I was a mother. I was a worker. I was a wife. I had all these different elements to me that I want them to look at first and not just automatically say, oh, well, we heard you are diagnosed with this or you're having depression, you're feeling isolated. How can we help? That's the main objective is to get somebody to let you know that they care about you and they want to treat you like with person-centered care, look at you as an individual and not as a case or a mental diagnosis first.
absolutely. Tell me a little bit about what are some signs we can look out for? Like I said in the beginning, all disabilities are not the same, nor do they look the same. How can caretakers, family, or friends be aware of someone that is distressed with mental health issues that has a wide spectrum of
For some people,
physical abilities and disabilities?
some people, it looks different. It looks different for everybody. Some things that symptoms you could look out for is either or sleeping too much or too little. Just notice daily quality of life or daily activities have changed. Anger or feeling edgy, lashing out, um, being irate, not being able to control the emotions, overwhelming sadness, moodiness, pulling away from other people, not connecting with others. Um, always in the bed. Some people like to, if they have clinical depression, they've been known to just want to stay in the bed, not even want to get up and face the day. Some people is different. They tend to be more busy. That they like to stay doing things, or they have to stay busy so they don't slow down and get bottled with the thoughts, the overreactive thoughts in their mind. Some people have physical pains, headaches, stomach aches, feelings of helplessness or hopelessness. Excessive smoking, drinking, or using drugs include prescription medications, and um, sometimes emotional distress leads to anniversary, or a time something happened in their life that brings them back or re-triggers them to that time. So there's a lot of things that could attribute to that overwhelming feeling and those symptoms you get. But it's very tricky, because as we know, with people who are suicidal, they seem to be upbeat. Some people have taken their lives and they seem to be the life of the party. They seem to be doing well. They're living their life. They're taking care of their kids. They're in show business, and it's just such a shock that they choose to take their lives because there was no warning signs. So it's very diverse in the symptoms in a way it can affect each and every person.
Yes, ma'am. I mean, yeah, that is such a good point you make. It's some of the most like happiest people end up taking their own lives. I think it'd be great too if you could address, I mean, what a lot of people, I think, even when they hear the word physical disabilities, what even does disabilities mean? That's such a vague term, but what is really defined as disabilities?
So, with the Merriam Webster's dictionary, disability is defined as an impairment that doesn't allow you to do cognitive, mental, or physical activities. It inhibits quality of life. It has an effect on activities of daily living. So we know through disability studies that it is very fluid. There's a lot of different aspects to disability. Throughout the course of the years and years, and the historically with disability, there were a period when we went through the medical model where we were put in institutions for our disabilities, and we were monitored and we were diagnosed by on the medical spectrum or by doctors. This was with the hopes that there was a cure, that you would be better, that they would eventually come to an end, the disability would end. This was the psychological effect that was being put into our subconscious. Through the disability rights movement of 1970s, 1960s, there was a increase in the social model of disability. And this model showed us that we were only disabled by our environment, or the things that we were inhabited of. So that came down to things like accessibility. If you were hearing impaired, if you had an ASL, or if you were looking for accessibility for buildings and places of um, events where you would like to go and things like that. So there definitely was a change in the thinking of disability, because now there's disability pride, you know, activism, and we have laws and policies in place to help protect us. We have a long way to go, because there's still some discrimination and stereotypes and stigmatism that's associated with disability through all aspects and intersectionalities. But it's a work in progress. There's a work in progress.
Absolutely. Definitely. You said a word there. It's definitely a work in progress. Moving on from that, tell me a little bit about how the Black community is affected by this. Now, do Black individuals with disability, we know that there's such a thing as intersectionality, meaning, the different axes of your identity really do make for the different overall life experience you have. I mean, do Black individuals with disabilities, do folks in our community, do they need special attention and care for their mental health as opposed to their peers that are not Black?
Yes, there's definitely a need in 2024, in the 21st century, where more preventative intervention, more provider service, more um, mental health for our societal problems. Um, of course, we know in our communities, a lot of urban communities, um, we have social determinants of mental health, and that is the increase of mental illness among
Yes.
certain groups and worsen outcomes for individuals with mental illness that are minorities, Black, Latino. Some of these things can be unnecessary disabilities or acquired disabilities. So, say you're aging and you're just living your life, or you get into a car accident and you acquire a disability. You might lose a limb, or you might need to use a walker, or get shot or something because victim of violent crime and have to live your life, the rest of your life, in a wheelchair. So that's like unnecessary disabilities. There are some of the outcomes in our communities. As I spoke about earlier, the emotional distress, where PTSD, as you mentioned, depression, anxiety, those type of illnesses that trigger you, take you back to a place depending on anniversaries, dates, times. And this could be a cause of natural disasters or man-made disasters as well. We had a lot of people who, through natural disasters like Hurricane Katrina, who were displaced, who lost their lives, lost their homes.
Yes.
That led them to unemployment, homelessness. These are some other attributes. We have, sad to say, in our community, a lot of substance abuse, um,
Yeah.
addictions, um, inappropriate incarceration. A lot of people who are mentally ill are inappropriately incarcerated because they were not able to take care of themselves independently. So they didn't have the resources in the community to take care of themselves. So they may have did a petty crime or went to jail for something. Now they could get the mental health services. They could get the
Mhm.
medication. They could get a meal every day to make sure they're eating. And other things that is the attribute is poor quality of life. So we have these chronic diseases like dual diagnosis, hypertension, diabetes, cholesterol, dual diagnosis. So you have a disability, plus you have a chronic or acute illness that's onset or long lasting. So we have to be aware of that as well. And the most vital social determinant of mental health is mortality or death. It can kill you. Um,
Yeah.
Being in the wrong place at the wrong time,
Yeah.
a victim of police brutality, or we've seen on TV where on the news where people were just being called to homes. The police were being called to homes because there was a mental health crisis or a mental health breakdown, and the person was ultimately, their life was taken because they didn't have the right preventative measures or the correct education
Yes.
on how to deal with that correctly, how to deal with that person in crisis correctly. So there's a lot of things that is in our community. I think we need more um, wellness centers. Our churches need to invest in
Yeah.
mental health services. They're very instrumental in the community. So they should provide those services and work with healthcare providers. There's some people that's outreach to get out into the community to help people with. There's other organizations that deal with people with violence prevention or educational purposes with schools and things like that. So a lot of that comes into play to help us, which we need more services, but definitely in a non-rural, non-urban environment, there are more resources. There's more funding, um, and that's just like the hardcore truth about it.
Absolutely, though, Jocelyn, you drop so many gems there. I think one thing that really stuck out to me was you said a lot of these are acquired disabilities, right? You end up, due to violence, maybe in your environment, you end up getting shot. You end up in a car accident, homelessness, right? You're unemployed. Maybe your spouse gets unemployed. Maybe a child gets sick. All these things can really greatly affect, your environment to where, you could potentially end up homeless, right? And that can definitely trigger something else in you. Did you want to add something in there? I saw your finger.
Yes, and just to put one more note, when a prime example is when the pandemic struck. So we
Yes.
were isolating, we were stuck in the house. There was a fear of the unknown. No one knew exactly what was going on. It was really like too soon to really react on. There was no vaccine, there was no cure. People were dying. It was just a very, very bad place to be in at the time. People that were used to going to work or going out for daily activities, exercising, it was like everything was all with gratitude now because all of those things were taken away from us. And it definitely did something to a lot of people's mental health. There was so many anxiety, depression, isolation, not able to get to their doctor's appointments. People with disabilities were the most vulnerable population with COVID 19. Um, not able to get out, not able to work, not able to, it's just like not able to suffice for the daily needs of life. So that's another note that a takeaway that I
Mm.
wanted to put in there. The pandemic was a very big eye opener for how you can live your life normally, scot free of disabilities or mental health issues, and it just made it so prevalent in our community and abroad. It affected everyone.
Yes, ma'am. I mean, and you know what, the thing about the pandemic, we still are having the ripples of the effect of the pandemic. It really still hasn't gone away. I mean, and I'm sure the effects of the pandemic will be still for decades. That was a very severe time for many people. Completely agree with you. Thank you so much for that. Now tell me, moving to this kind of other wave of it, what does it look like to be an advocate for those with disabilities and their mental health? How can people really be truly allyship to really help those that are affected with a vast variety of disabilities and helping them with their mental health? What does that look like for folks to be an advocate for change and helping?
To me, what it looks like to be an advocate for people with disabilities and their mental health is you have to become a critical thinker. You have to demonstrate the ability to speak on behalf of someone who may not have a voice to speak for themselves. Um, you should keep in mind not to think of them as a charity case. They are more than able to do for themselves. There's been a thing with telethons with disability rights activists, and they were anti telethons because this show people with disabilities is being charity cases. And this show people with disabilities as being superhuman. So, like, if someone disabled could do it, I know I can. Like, this is what's more mortalized in American film, well, globally in film, media, news, and just the whole theme of disability. So if you're an able-bodied person, we it's this thing called allies. So you should be an ally and educate yourself on disability. And this could be by being exposed to disability art, their culture, music, theater, dance, film, and history. Become aware of disability pride in their organizations. Just talk to some people who's lived their life as disabled people. Just do your research and come to them like a human being. Again, person centered care. Just be normal. Talk to them as a human being, and they'll really let you know how things are going, and it's pretty norm. It's the norm, but just society brings it into this abnormal type of way for
Yeah.
people who have disabilities. So you can volunteer, work at a nursing home, or work for kids who have intellectual disabled disabilities, or kids with autism. Take your pick, whichever you like. I mean, you could even work with older adults with Alzheimer's if if children are not your net. So there's a lot of different avenues you can go to create outlets to be an advocate for people with disabilities.
1000%. Absolutely.
And
Yeah. The
if you if I want to say one more thing, if you are a person with disabilities, start by writing it down. A good way to get yourself out there and get your voice. Write it down. Keep a daily journal. Put down your thoughts. So when you go back to look over it, you can become clearer on what was bothering me that day, how I want to speak up, and what voice I should use. It'll help you develop your voice. And it's this thing called performance. So when disabled people go to hospitals or talk to social workers, they're doing this act of performance to let them know that I am okay. I know what are my rights. I know how to take care of myself. I'm self determined. So, those are some things that people who have problems with advocating for themselves could do as well. Because if you can advocate for yourself, somebody else can advocate for you as well by speaking up for yourself. Even if it's small steps, those lead to the bigger goals. So that's an important note to take too.
I love that. Absolutely. Yeah, those small steps lead to the bigger goal. No, those are such great tips. And I love the idea of someone with disabilities, the journal writing. Absolutely. Once you give wording, you then empowered. I love that. Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, Jocelyn, this has been such a great conversation so far. You dropped so many gems with your wisdom and knowledge. Tell me, I mean, kind of as a kind of end all be all question for those listening and kind of as we go forward, important thing to remember on both sides of the fence, whether you're an individual with disabilities trying to grasp your mental health, or you're a caretaker, a parent, a friend, a lover, and you're trying to advocate, trying to be on these, trying to help out someone going through these things. What do you think is the kind of biggest takeaway for people to know, and the most important thing to remember?
Okay, so with family, remember them as they were. Um, Come to them with care. Um, in the Black community, we have an issue with trust. So therefore, We don't trust to talk to people. We like to self medicate with maybe alcohol or marijuana, or we sometimes we do escape to get away from our problem. And just by being there for the person, talking to them with a healthcare provider, asking them, do you need a resource for medication? Give them some ideas of what to do for self care. Do you want to read a book? Do you want to exercise? Do you want to come home after work and take an hour long luxurious bath with a magazine and have your glass of wine? Just try to be creative with asking them what can really help them with dealing with this stressful day. People have jobs, or people have parents. Parents for sure are the most stressed out people, especially stay at home moms. Dealing with their children all day, cooking, cleaning, tending to the kids, and you really don't have time to take care of yourself. You haven't did your hair, you haven't did your nails, you haven't went out and bought yourself a shirt, a pair of pants, a dress, or anything, any shoes or anything. I mean, even people that's working are just from the toil of day to day. I'm hustling, I'm
Yeah.
just, they don't even take a break to stop and smell the roses. So it's like you have to really
Mm.
take care of yourself. You have to set time aside to take care of yourself. You have to trust someone that you could talk to. If it's somebody with a lot of mother wit, a lot of wisdom. If it's the older of your family you trust, you could talk to your grandma or your grandfather. Sisters and brothers, somebody you grew up with who knows you well as you know yourself. Cousins that you are kind of close with, And if you don't have family or friends, try to seek out some counseling. That will help you 100% of the time. You don't have to go in there and give them your life story, but if they're a very good counselor, they will guide you and give you the keys to being successful in whatever strategy you need for coping skills. Because that's the main thing you need is coping skills with mental health, because it's so tricky. One day you could have a good day, you could be up. The next day, you crying all day. You don't know why, or it's just dealing with life obstacles. Well, this was paid, now this is due, and it's just the worrying of it. Now you're gonna stress yourself out worrying. So I think if you're a spiritual person, you should read your Bible. I do believe in reading your Bible, reading positive quotes, affirmations, saying positive things, speaking positive things over yourself, having an accountability partner. If you choose to exercise, exercise is one of the most underrated means of medication and well-being for people with disabilities. Just walking for 20 minutes a day could really help you, and it can help you with other chronic illnesses as well, hypertension, diabetes, if you need to get that weight off you. So just trying to find some different avenues for things you can do for yourself, and just face the day. After you get that relax and refresh, that R&R, relax and restore, you could brave another day, you could prevail for another day. So those are some things I think are important. Exercise, low impact for people who are not into high impact cardio. Just walking could really help with your mental health. It could help with hypertension, diabetes if you need to lose weight. Swimming is another good exercise, low impact. Dancing, Zumba. Just get out there and get active. You will not regret it. Like it's the best underused medicine for mental health. It will make you feel so much better. And what was
Absolutely,
the rest of the question?
absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Jocelyn. I mean, that was absolutely amazing. You dropped so many. Go ahead.
No, I'm listening.
Okay. As you drop so many wonderful things for us to learn about, for breaking down disability to us, as well as how important it is for us in the Black community to pay attention to warning signs and how we can be allies to folks that we know and to ourselves. So, again, thank you so much for being a guest on today's episode. Please do tell us any websites or social media tags so folks can come check out all the amazing work you're doing and be able to follow you.
Can I say one thing?
Of course.
If you're, I'm doing a book signing on June the 8th, 2024, from 4 to 8 at a place called the Creative Incubator. It's at 314 East 51st Street. We're doing a theme on health, well being, healing. Spoken word artists will be there. We're having food, we're having photos, we're having music. Please come out and have a good time with us. You could get the tickets off Eventbrite, and it's free. It's free. If you want to be a spoken word artist, you should come sign up, and you'll get your 5 minutes of fame. And we're gonna have a good time. We're gonna celebrate community, healing, and that's the whole thing. So, and my book signing. So that's the whole thing. We're gonna have a good time.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Jocelyn, yes, people will come check that out. Thank you so much. And all right, you have an amazing episode, and everyone go check out that event and go check out all of Jocelyn Sanders tuning in to Black Mental Health Matters show. Now, to support our show, please visit bmhm.org. Again, that's bmhm.org for the latest conversations on Black mental health. Please join us next week. Have a great day.